Hello and welcome to Grid Vision. We're excited to be here this lovely Sunday afternoon for the Global Racing Truck Series at Talladega. Definitely an exciting one we have, action-packed race we have in store for us here today. Of course, 100 laps here at this 2.66-mile racetrack, so quite a long one we have, actually longer than our NIS race we had on Friday, but I'm sure it's going to be very, very much exciting. We have all the Global Racing guys pretty much in action here, playoff racing here at Talladega. Everybody is just in the midst of qualifying. We do have open qualifying here today, so this is going to kind of be really interesting to see how this kind of plays out. Most of the time when you have open qualifying, pretty much the driver that does the best in the draft as the best race setup is probably going to be the fastest out here on the track. Of course, let's take a look at next week's schedule before we get too deep into the details of tonight's race, or today's race, I should say. And we have a busy week next week, packed with all sorts of cool racing going on. Of course, tonight we're going to have, I do believe, the RGR Cup Series going to be racing at Darlington Raceway, so my home track. Make sure you tune in 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, tomorrow we're going to have the Grid Vision Superspeedway Series, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be at Talladega. Make sure you tune in there. Tuesday, Champion Power Equipment Truck Series continues their season at Bristol. That'll be 9 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, Charlotte Motor Speedway. I do believe that's the Charlotte Roval, going to be featured in the SSRL Truck Series. That's at 9 p.m. A new series that we just picked up here recently. Friday, of course, continuing our NIS coverage. That's going to be Charlotte Roval as well, 9 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, doubleheader once again. We're going to have the Charlotte Roval and I do believe the Global Racing Truck Series at 12:30. And, of course, later that night, I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to be back at Charlotte again. I think the oval track, though, in the Kailu Glass Cup RGR Cup Series. So definitely excited to see all of that action. Let's take a quick look at the points for this series. And, of course, Bobby Mantle is at the top of the board when it comes to points right now. He has definitely been the man to beat here as of late. He's got 3 wins on the season. Of course, second place right now, Michael Hayes. Third, Chad McGinley. Fourth place, EJ Luna down a spot. Stephen Hayes up 5 positions. He's in 5th place. 6th place is Ricky Hudgens. He's up 2 positions as well. Of course, Steve Gerber sits in, or I should say Mark Royce is in 7th place. Steve Gerber's in 8th, up 1 position. Justin LeBlanc's up 3 positions in 10th. Stephen Knight, he is up into, I do believe, that 10th place position right now. And I do believe that is a look from 1st to 10th. As we're now deep in the playoffs. We have a little over a minute left here in qualifying, and definitely going to be a good one. We got 100 laps on the docket here. Fuel window is going to be about 35 laps, I do believe. So these guys are definitely going to have to probably make a green flag stop if we do not have green flag racing. Of course, these guys have 4 sets of tires. Tires are not going to be a huge deal here this day, but they could still play a factor or play a role when it comes to pit stops. If you possibly take left sides only in your pit stop, you're going to have a much easier time getting off of pit road and probably, not spinning it out. It's very easy to spin it out coming off of pit road if you don't take any tires at all. So keep an eye on that. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we see a lot of guys still out there drafting together here in open qualifying. Interesting to see that. I always kind of liked open qualifying because it really shows who's got the best race setup. But I think we have about 5 seconds left here. And, of course, looks like at the moment, Bobby Mantle, who is our points leader, is at the top of the board. It looks like I think we have extended qualifying just a hair, actually. One thing about open qualifying, kind of can't predict when it's going to end. I think it's because there are other drivers on the racetrack. It sounds like we're having some technical difficulties. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll try to work those out. We should have time to get to the starting grid. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Grid Vision. Of course, we had some technical difficulties, but luckily we had we were able to get back right before the green. We would go ahead and run down through the entire grid, but I don't think we got time considering the green flag is getting ready to come out. We'll go ahead and call out the top 10, though. Bobby Mansell, of course, first. DJ Honeycutt, second. LeBlanc is in third. Stephen Hayes, fourth. Michael Hayes, fifth. EJ Luna, sixth. Stephen Knight in seventh. Chad McGinley, eighth. Tyler Honeycutt, ninth. And Michael Lester starts in 10th. That is a look at the top 10. We apologize for the inconvenience, but it looks like we are back, and at least we didn't miss a hair of a green flag racing here. Of course, top line starting to really surge ahead right now with Austin McGill, or should I say, actually, that is DJ Honeycutt in the 15, who's jumped down in front of Stephen Hayes. Long race we have here, ladies and gentlemen, 100 laps, over 250 miles here at Talladega. It looks like the top line has really started to disintegrate. Now, one thing about this style of racing is most of the time at Talladega, the top line is really one of the strongest places to be. But then again, these trucks have not seen a whole lot of racing here with them. I've seen the next gens quite a bit, and top line's definitely very strong, especially the middle line. But here so far on the trucks, it seems like the bottom line is the place to be. Of course, we're going to see what happens when we get some rubber laid down. Of course, DJ Honeycutt, though, is going to lead our first lap here of competition at Talladega. And so far we see pretty much single file racing. Not a whole lot of guys really side by side. Looks like a lot of drivers know that this is a long race. These guys gotta pretty much take care of their equipment, make it to the end. There are no fast repairs in this series. But I do see Steve Gerber, I do believe, trying to make something happen on the top side a little bit further back. And I do believe, I'm not sure who's he's working with. I think that is actually Joshua Slade in that green car. Now, we've seen Joshua Slade, get a podium last week. He's been getting some really good finishes here as of late. So really look for this 12 machine of Slade to really put on his show out here. Always great at these style racetracks. And it looks like him and Steve Gerber possibly going to the front. Look at the runs these guys are generating right now. They were back outside of the top 10. Now they're almost side by side for the lead. Look at this. I got to think, though, that Joshua Slade is probably overextending and maybe heating up that engine. Because, of course, when you push this hard, a lot of times that temperature starts to go up for sure. As well as you see now David Halsey's drafting up to the back end as well of the driver of Joshua Slade. Slade thinking about dropping down. It looks like we got one driver that has decided to drop down, and I think that is Ricky Hudgens. So he's going to drop down to the bottom line, seeing if maybe he can get that bottom line moving. But it looks like I spoke too soon. I was talking about the top line. I was like, it doesn't look like it's got any speed. But here these guys come out of nowhere, and they just, it only took them about a lap to drive their way to the front. Isn't that something? Steve Gerber in control of this race with Joshua Slade sitting in second. David Halsey sits in third right now. Ricky Hudgens, of course, trying to get back in line with these guys. As well as you see Donald Holmes has made his way up into the top 5. Donald Holmes, very good plate racer, very good super speedway style racer. I watched him actually and a friend earlier in the week push each other to a 1-2 finish. So I know that he's got this truck fairly down pat this week, as we see a lot of side-by-side battling further back in the pack. We saw DJ Honeycutt, who was in the lead. He's now in that 6th place position, trying to hang on to 6th place. As you see Mark Royce, I do believe, trying to make some moves up on the higher side as well. Actually, the car we were looking at was actually Michael Hayes. Look, him and DJ Honeycutt look similar in their paint schemes. We see Ronald Holmes trying to make the top groove work. Of course, a lot of times that does not work when you're by yourself at a track like this. This track is all about strength and numbers. And pretty much all the action is happening a little bit deeper in the pack. Mark Royce, who was trying to make that top line work, he has got, of course, I do believe Daniel Ott in tow. Those drivers now have jumped down to the bottom. Now the entire field is single file. So that puts Steve Gerber up at the top of the board. And looks like these guys are pretty much all set for the long haul here at Talladega. Lap times around this racetrack right now, about 51 or so laps, or 51-second laps here thus far. So some very quick laps Of course, not as quick as the NASCAR truck. I'd like to see if we could possibly take, or not the NASCAR truck, NASCAR Next Gen. I'd like to see if we could possibly take an on-board look with Joshua Slade and see exactly what he sees through the cockpit camera. I know this is one of those tracks that is so important to have visibility, and a lot of times when you're sitting in the cockpit of these trucks, it's very difficult to see that yellow line. So you can see even Steve Gerber kind of staying a little bit above that yellow line to kind of give Joshua Slade a little bit of a better view. But you can still see that it's very difficult to see, especially when you're right on the back bumper of another truck as we're getting ready to complete lap number 6. And you can just see how much Josh is trying to have, move that wheel, just little minute adjustments just to kind of try to stay on the rear end of Steve Gerber. One false move here from Slade could end up turning Steve Gerber around. Very easy to give a bad bump or a bump that is not square here at Talladega. That's really the bane of the leader's existence when a guy that's behind him kind of gives him a bad bump. Also, one of the rules as well, don't push the pusher. That's going to be something we're going to probably see come into play a little bit later in this race. You definitely should not push the pusher, especially through the corners. I'd say is going to be the big deal. Now, one thing about the new next-gen car is that is a little bit more of a thing that you can do. You can actually push through the corners. You can bump the bumper. Those cars have a lot more, I'd say, stability under bump drafting, but you still don't want to really bump in the corners quite as much. But these trucks, definitely a huge no-no as we're looking off the back there of Joshua Slade's race car at David Holsey. Now, 5 aces, I got to be completely honest, we're looking at apparently his suspension. A very good look at his suspension. The setup, everybody knows everything about it now. But what a race we've seen thus far. I was wanting to talk about the 5 Aces crew. Now, they, at the early portions of the season, we saw with Austin McGill, he was a dominator. Really, every race he went out onto the track, he was whooping some butt. And it seems like the 5 Aces crew, though, has kind of, I'd say, lost a lot of their steam here late in this season. But it looks like this race, they must have a setup that is really, really fast underneath that hood. Because, that entire 5-car train right now, of course, Steve Gerber and David Holsey are the 2 5 Aces crew guys. They're definitely putting a lot, I think, horsepower into that group. Of course, you see Joshua Slade seems like he unloaded with a very fast setup as well. And that's one thing about Slade. Every week he's shown up thus far, he has been incredibly fast. As we get ready to start lap number 10, as they file onto the backstretch, everybody is single file at the moment. You can see that almost have a 5-car breakaway. I wonder if they will be able to break away. Looking at the speed, we see Steve Gerber's hitting a 51.737 versus DJ Honeycutt's hitting a 51.91. So that is much different pace right there. That's like 2/10. These guys, we could have a 5-car breakaway. That just shows that maybe they unloaded something faster than everybody else here this evening. We'll have to see if this maintains. Could even maybe DJ Honeycutt be trying to save fuel, that pack behind? Could they be trying to maybe cut out a fuel stop? Keep in mind, the fuel window is about 30 to 35 laps. In the next gen, it's about 42. This truck has notoriously always had less fuel mileage than the NASCAR Next Gen and the Xfinity. It looks like we already as well have a lap car coming up in our mirrors, or should I say our windshield. And that, of course, is Austin McGill. I think Austin actually started from the pits. So unfortunately for him, that might not have been the best call considering how green this race has been thus far. He is going to get caught like he's standing still. Now, this is going to show how important the draft is when he gets caught by this pack. They are like a tornado of speed right now, just coming up so much faster than him. Looking at lap times, they are about 3 or 4 seconds faster. You see his speeds on the screen. He's hitting about 167 mile an hour, while this pack is probably hitting 180. Yeah, you see right there, 184 miles an hour there from Steve Gerber, 185. On the straightaway, he's almost hitting 190. So that's 20 mile an hour faster. As it looks like Gerber goes up. What is he doing here? He goes up, and he's going to drop down behind Slade. I'm wondering if this could have been maybe because Slade was starting to overheat. This is very odd. Very odd indeed. Joshua Slade has elected not to be pushed by Gerber. I think that would have been a really good call to just kind of say, go ahead, man, push me. I mean, if you're overheating or you're having fuel mileage issues, go ahead and push me. But I think this actually might have been a strategy call to get Austin McGill into the pack. Because you saw Steve Gerber jumped up, and I think he did that in order to give Austin McGill some draft, which is very interesting. That is, of course, they are on the same team. Yep. And he, of course, is right there in the mix. And this has kind of provoked, I'd say, a little bit of action in the pack. Joshua Slade, kind of the biggest loser in that situation, now behind Ronald Holmes. So curious to see that, Steve Gerber definitely was willing to make some big moves there to try to get his teammate Austin McGill into this grouping. Of course, he's going to need a caution in order to get back on the lead lap. Of course, he will be the lucky dog considering he is. Well, actually, now he's not a lap down considering he has been pushed to the lead. This is actually probably one of the best scenarios for the 5 Aces guys. If Steve Gerber can push Austin McGill and he maintained that lead, Steve Gerber's saving gas, and he's also keeping Austin McGill on the lead lap. So if a caution comes out and Austin McGill is still on the lead lap, he won't have to worry about a lucky dog. But then again, these guys do have to worry about some guys racing them as well. As you see Ronald Holmes trying to take control here. Using that top line, and Holmes definitely looking very quick. Being pushed by Joshua Slade as well as Michael Lester has entered the fray. And Michael Lester, I think, is going to probably jump down. They're going to ditch Joshua Slade here. Now, Slade is their Lazy Lizards teammate, I do believe. Well, no. I think we did hear that Lazy Lizards, or should I say Joshua Slade, was going to be starting a new team, and I think it was supposed to debut this week possibly. So definitely like to ask him possibly later in the race. Ronald Holmes out front and in control. Very fast setup underneath him, it seems like. Let's take a quick look at top to bottom for the top 10. Ronald Holmes is in first place. Michael Lester's in second. Steve Gerber's in third. David Holsey's fourth. Joshua Slade is in fifth. Ricky Hudgens sits sixth. Tyler Honeycutt doing a good job. He's up in seventh. Eighth place, Ron Harrington. Ninth place, DJ Honeycutt. And 10th, Stephen Hayes. So let's look at 1 through 10. And so far, it's been really, really, I'd say, calm out here. And a lot of times when you're at Talladega, the calm is usually before the storm, I should say, because eventually these guys are going to get to where they're racing. Now, one good thing about this series is there are no stages. So a lot of times when you see league races that have stages, whenever we get about 5 laps or a couple laps from the end of the stage, that's when things start to really ratchet up the intensity. And that's one of the good things about this series. So they don't have that. And that means a lot of these drivers will probably survive a lot longer in this race because they're not really trying to go after stage points. They're just really just trying to make sure they go after overall points. Now, they do, I do believe, get points for laps led, of course, leading the most laps. So I think a lot of these drivers are as well going for that. Now, Holmesy, if I'm not mistaken, is not a playoff driver because, of course, we do have it set up. I know I have it set up myself that I can see all of the playoff drivers. They have a P next to their names. I know our broadcast does not show that, I do believe. But, yeah, Ronald Holmes is not a playoff driver as well as Michael Lester or Joshua Slade. So we got 3 non-playoff drivers leading this race, essentially 1, 2, 3. Steve Gerber is the first playoff driver in that 4th place position. And I think Steve Gerber desperately probably needs some points right now. So this is a good opportunity for him as we see somewhat of a 3-truck breakaway. It's interesting to see that we have the potential to break away here at Talladega. I mean, you can see the lap times from Joshua Slade last time by 52.5. I do believe that is a very quick lap from him. And surprisingly, the whole pack has kind of slowed down a little bit. Oh, here comes Ronald Holmes. He jumps up. I'm thinking they're maybe trying to do some type of cycle to make sure they don't burn as much gas. We've seen this before at Talladega. It's just I'm not really familiar with the positive and negative benefits of a strategy like this. But we're closing in up on the halfway point, or should I say 1/4 mark of the race, almost 18 laps in. This thing has been flying right on by. Now Michael Lester at the head of the field. Michael Lester, I talked to him last week, and I thought he was going to be calling the race with me. I mean, I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, but he said he's putting the Falcons paint scheme on, and he's coming out here to race. And no wonder he's out here with a fast truck. He's leading some laps. I guess I can't truly blame him. If he wins this race, I guess I guess I'll be interviewing him, and definitely a great truck he seems like he's got underneath him. Joshua Slade, though, for the most part, has been second place a lot of this race. I mean, he's been the one that has been pushing that leader to the front. So I'm wondering what he's got under the hood in that 12 machine. Seems like he's always got a very fast setup underneath the hood. And a little bit further back, we see some guys kind of dipping out. I see Mark Royce. He has been trying desperately to kind of get something going, to kind of move up with Daniel Ott, but nothing seems to be working. Definitely nothing like what we saw earlier with Steve Gerber. I mean, Steve Gerber jumped up to the top with Joshua Slade, and it was just a two-car tandem that worked their way to the front. It doesn't seem like anybody really has been able to replicate that. So keep an eye out for that. I think that has a lot to do with the setup that are underneath these hoods. Of course, when you're in the draft at Talladega, setup a lot of times doesn't matter very much. As Michael Lester, what is going on here? How did he get so far out? It looks like everybody has slowed down substantially. I mean, I don't know why these guys are slowing down a lot right now, because Michael has just jumped up to the top of the track. And looking at lap times, I mean, 55-second laps. These are slower than qualifying. I think these guys are trying to save gas just to be able to maybe cut a stop out of this race. This is very curious. I am kind of at a loss right now, because I'm looking at lap times, and they are about 4 seconds off of what they were hitting at their fastest. And usually at tracks like Talladega, the faster, or should I say the longer in the run you go, the faster you get, just because of the lack of fuel. The weight kind of gets lower, and you kind of learn, you kind of go just a little bit, you have less weight, so you're able to go a little bit faster. But looking at lap time, I mean, these guys are hitting high 55s now. I mean, this is way off the pace compared to what they were doing before. So I guess everybody's trying to save fuel. We have, of course, gotten up to the 1/5 mark of the race. I think now's a good time. We'll take a quick step away. We'll be right back with some more action here to figure out what's going on.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Grid Vision's coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series at Talladega. Now, the weirdness just keeps getting on weirder. Now we have about a 4-car breakaway, of course, that being Steve Gerber. Austin McGill, of course, actually, he is a lap car, but he is kind of in front of Gerber right now. Gerber, of course, is the technical leader. David Holsey sits in second. Ricky Hudgens is right there with him, so a little bit of a technical alliance going on here. Ronald Holmes kind of in no man's land in the middle between these two different packs. And you can tell how big the draft is considering he's hitting 52-second laps versus the guys ahead of him are about 0.7 of a second faster than him. But then we go back to the second pack, which is Bobby Mantle. These guys are going much slower than the front pack. They're hitting 53-second laps. We were talking about 55-second laps earlier. I think these guys are really making a huge gamble to save gas. I'm just surprised that they have gotten so many of these guys together to do the same thing, to be honest. This is kind of interesting to see all these guys organizing to try to, I think, take out one stop. And I think the 5 Aces guys, as well as Ricky Hutchins, have elected that, you know what, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to drive as fast as we can because, I mean, that's what Talladega is all about, ladies and gentlemen. So it is kind of surprising to see that a lot of these guys are trying to maybe make a fuel strategy. I mean, maybe that was something that a lot of these guys maybe worked out beforehand to kind of cut out a stop. Of course, pit stops around this place, I think it would take about 40 seconds, probably a little bit, maybe 40 to 50 seconds from one end of the pit road to the other. Now, that even cuts out, depends on if you take fuel, if you take tires. So if these guys don't take tires, it actually lessens the amount of time you spend from one end to the other. But this is very, very interesting. I am just completely floored by the developments we've seen. I think the fuel window is about 30 or so laps. I'm not exactly sure on the exact figure. We do see Ronald Holmes is starting to now get caught by the second pack. Of course, last time by Holmes hit a 55.504. Stephen Hayes is now at the top of the second pack. He has got EJ Luna, of course, his Lone Star teammate, in front of him. And it looks like these guys as well have decided to stop kind of saving gas. I don't know if that was like a temporary thing that a lot of these drivers were doing, but they definitely have decided, hey, it's time to go. I mean, because you could just see with the difference in lap times, I mean, David Holsey and company, they pulled away. I mean, they're 9 seconds out ahead. I mean, even if you are able to cut out a stop, if you are that far back, it might not even help. It might not add up to, I mean, because it's so difficult to really fuel save at Talladega. I mean, the only way to do it is if you just sit behind someone and kind of, ride 60% or half throttle. I mean, this is a wide open style racetrack. Other tracks, it's a lot easier to kind of clutch and coach and do things like that. But Talladega, not really one of them. And I think these guys are starting to realize that, hey, we're slowing down way too much. And you can even see the lap times have started to get a lot better. 51.986 from Stephen Hayes. That is pretty much right on the money with what the front three are running at the moment. That's definitely, of course, our producer just had a valid question. Why would you give up 10 seconds to the leader? That's definitely a valid question. I think that this is very curious on why you would do that, and they only know. I mean, they're down there in the race cars. They have their calculators out. I'm not exactly sure why that strategy would be that way, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, maybe it'll all pay off. I mean, a lot of times I've looked at things that have been really, really strange out on iRacing and guys that have thought outside the box. And a lot of times it works out for them. I mean, so I have no clue. I mean, sometimes these kind of strategies work, and but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we can definitely see that, though, they are still actually losing time again. This is kind of interesting to see that it's not about all strength in numbers. If this second pack is really trying their best to catch up to that front pack now, which contains only 4 cars, this really shows that strength in numbers really isn't the biggest priority here. It's actually, I think, having a group of 4 or something like that. A group of 3 or 4, I think, is faster than a long line, because I think when you have a long line of trucks, you have a lot more variables that are involved. So I think that's going to be a big deal. Like, checkups are a lot more likely when you have 10 or more trucks, which I think this second pack is definitely figuring out, because you see the lap times 51.986 there from the Lone Star driver of Stephen Hayes. But for the most part, everybody's single file. We've been single file for the most of this race, which is quite interesting to say the least. Usually we expect, especially in Global Racing Truck Series, these guys are always putting on just awesome shows and always aggressive. These guys are always aggressive. And with the last couple of weeks, we've seen guys, crossing each other over, making huge, aggressive moves on each other. But here at Talladega, it seems like these guys, they have kind of brought the chamomile tea and are just relaxing right now. But I'm sure it's going to turn up. I mean, we're already, a fourth of the way through this race on lap 31. So I guarantee you, whenever we get to where I think these guys are good on gas, when they know for a fact that they don't have to run, they don't have to worry. Oh, we got green flag stops on lap 31. You see David Holsey, Ricky Hudgens, and Steve Gerber and Austin McGill all coming to pit road. It looks like, I think, Stephen Hayes and company going to be staying out one more lap. I think this is why they were doing that saving, just probably to get another lap out of it. Let's see how many laps they gained as a result of that strategy. So we see the fuel window seems to be about 30, 31, which is much less than the NASCAR Next Gen. NASCAR Next Gen was capable of making it 42 laps. So that is quite different. But let's see how, they were checking up quite a bit. They sacrificed 10 seconds essentially. And let's see how many laps that bought them. This is going to be, of course, it's transactional, and here they come, a lot of them. So it might have only bought them 1 extra lap, and that is not worth it, not at all. I mean, we got problems. Ronald Holmes with some issues. He into the inside wall. Ronald Holmes with some issues coming to pit road. Looks like he's got probably going to have some right side, or should I say left side damage there, as he gets the inside pit wall. See if he spends a little bit extra time on pit road to see if he can fix that. Well, that is unfortunate to have your first stop go awry there with some damage on that race car. This is when the money stop is, though, or every pit stop at Talladega really is the money stop. And here comes the leader, Stephen Hayes, to pit road, along with E.J. Luna. So we are seeing a lot of the leaders pit here. You see Michael Hayes as well, Justin LeBlanc. So we're seeing a lot of guys coming to pit road. Chad McGinley, Stephen Knight, Bobby Mantle. So I think this is all going to be about strategy here. Who is going to have the best strategy? They were able to make it an extra 2 laps compared to, of course, the 5 Aces guys. Oh, no. DJ Honeycutt misses his box. That is going to be a costly mistake. So even with these strategies these guys are pulling, one thing that is going to be just incredibly important is going to be execution. You cannot make mistakes like this, because it's going to cause you to lose the draft. And he might not even be able to be with his group here because of that simple fact. And it looks like I think we got Daniel Ott and Mark Royce. They're coming to pit road right now. Of course, just 2 cars. But David Holsey, I think, is going to be the leader after all of this. Of course, they did pit a couple laps earlier. I think they were not saving really and have gone, you know, we're not able to go quite as long. And looking at all the times on pit road, it looks like Steve Gerber really spent the most time on pit road, except for, I'd say, DJ Honeycutt. Steve Gerber spent 40 seconds from one end of pit lane to the other. Of course, DJ Honeycutt spent 41 seconds from one end of pit lane to the other. So it's all going to be about really execution. You're being efficient on pit road. And I think a lot of these guys, you know, with Steve Gerber kind of taking a little bit longer on pit road, with DJ Honeycutt taking a little bit longer on pit road, that kind of slows your pack down, your group down. Because you have to, if you want to be as powerful as you possibly can be, and you also want to pick up your teammate, you're going to slow down to kind of allow that driver to catch up, and that is going to cost you time. And I'll tell you, at Talladega, time is money. David Holsey leads right now on lap 35. Of course, Steve Gerber sits in second place. Ricky Hudgens, Dirty South driver, sits in third place. Stephen Hayes, he's back up into the 4th place position. They're about 7.8 seconds back. So they did, in that pit sequence, surprisingly gain some time. That's kind of interesting to say the least, just considering they were about, I do believe, 10 seconds back behind the top 3. So this is definitely curious. Of course, 5th place EJ Luna, 6th place Michael Hayes, 7th place Chad McGinley, 8th place Stephen Knight, 9th Justin LeBlanc, and 10th Daniel Ott. Yeah, we're of course noticing our producers mentioning something about the two-car team of Daniel Ott and Mark Royce, who pitted separately from this group, actually gained time and was able to link up with the second pack. They jumped up. They actually gained quite a number of positions. I think they were back, if I'm not mistaken, back in the, they were outside of 15, if I'm not mistaken, 18, 19. And now they're up in the top 10. Of course, we've got to keep in mind as well, Ronald Holmes lost quite a bit of positions there. He's now back into 19th. He spent, I do believe, a couple extra seconds on pit road, probably to get a little bit of that damage fix. He's now in 19th, of course. DJ Honeycutt, he as well lost some spots. He's back in 16th. So this is all going to be about strategy. And look at that. The time, though, at the top 3 or 4 here have driven away further from the second pack now. About 9.5 seconds is the gap. So they are turning some incredibly fast laps. See, I think what we're seeing is just a much different strategy. We're seeing 2 vastly different strategies. One group, this top 3, along with Austin McGill, who's a lap car, have decided that they're going to not save gas. They're just going to go as fast as they can. And, of course, the second group is all about let's save fuel. And we're going to see which one wins. I think this is going to be curious to see how this plays out. This is going to be a numbers game. Some of my favorite racing on the iRacing Sim or the call it's always about the numbers, you know, to see who kind of has the best strategy. Because, I mean, in a lot of ways, racing at tracks like Talladega and Daytona, it's chess at almost 200 mile an hour. So I think that's exactly what we're seeing here right now. But I don't know. We're seeing kind of like Stephen Hayes in that second pack not willing to really commit to that strategy as well. Last time by, they were just as fast as the front 4. I think they're kind of, maybe realizing that, hey, we got to catch up. I don't know. I mean, it's or they're just looking at the numbers. They're like, okay, we're good to go, because they're not going to be able to save this entire race. They would lose way too much time. But just to give myself some time to kind of rest my voice, I think we're gonna go kind of do a little bit of our own little grid vision version of Crank It Up. Let's turn up the engines. Let's listen to them for a little bit. We'll be back. Welcome back, of course, to Grid Vision. We appreciate you giving me a little bit of time to kind of watch these guys. Oh, we're almost about to have an accident here in the second pack. As soon as we come back, things start to get a little bit lively as we almost had some 3-wide contact there. Bobby Mantle almost came up into Daniel Ott. Luckily, they kept it clean. They, of course, in the second pack have been trying to save gas, and it has cost them severely. They are now 23 seconds back from that front three of David Holsey, Steve Gerber, and Ricky Hudgens. Now Stephen Knight, of course, is in the control of this second pack. Seeing a lot of guys kind of going 3 wide and moving all around. It's kind of curious to see. Not exactly sure what the game plan is here, but I know that it is costing them a ton of time. They're hitting now 55-second laps again here. As you see, Stephen Knight jumps up the track. I really like the strategy for the 5 Aces guys. I think that they have the proper strategy. I think you just drive it as hard as you can and see what sticks. But they are definitely, there's a lot of movement going on right here. And a lot of times when there's movement at Talladega, there's a chance for an accident. And Stephen Hayes reclaims the lead of the second pack. And you see side by side. Of course, this side by side, it seems to be slowing these drivers down quite a lot. And this is just interesting to say the least. I mean, we're seeing a much different style race than what we saw in the next gen. On Friday, of course, we saw the NIS series. They ran 94 laps at Talladega, and it was nothing like this. I mean, they literally were 4 wide, 3 wide, the whole entire race. Now, this race is a lot more of these guys have the calculators out. But then again, this race is a lot cleaner as well as we're getting closer to that halfway point. We're on lap 47, come to 48 now. And David Holsey out front leading some laps. This is really a good day for 5 Aces. I know Holsey has not really had the best post-race, or post-season, I should say, playoffs that he probably needs. But it looks like he's definitely going to be getting him some points now, that is for sure. As we see a big move, I do believe, in the second pack, DJ Honeycutt working his way back up into the top 10. Of course, he made a little bit of a mistake on pit road, missed the entry to his box. He is now being pushed by, I do believe, his Lone Star teammate, Michael Hayes. Another driver we haven't seen a whole lot of since the early goings of this race is Joshua Slade. Slade showed that he had a really fast truck by pushing, of course, a lot of drivers to the lead. But ever since this fuel strategy kind of deal started, he's really slowed down significantly. Of course, we are coming up close. I do believe in the next 10 laps, we'll see that front 3 probably peel off and come down pit road again. It looks like they made it about 31 on that first stop, so I think they'll make it to probably about 62. And I think that's really the whole game of this second pack. They're really trying to cut out one of these stops. And will it be worth it? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, we're already halfway, and they're 30 seconds back from the front 3. Even if they manage to cut out one pit stop, it would still cost them substantial. I mean, because they have to cut out. They're going to cut out without having to pit one more time. Would be 37 to 40 seconds. That's definitely if they perfectly execute their pit stops. Of course, now most of the time, not everybody's going to perfectly execute their pit stops. So I definitely would put it more at the 40-second range. But the thing about it is they're 30 seconds back. So even if they get to the point where they are 40 seconds back, if David Holsey, Stephen Gerber, and Ricky Hudgens, even if they have to pit an extra time, they still will probably come out in front of that other pack, just because of the simple fact that they're moving a lot quicker. And a lot of people are probably like, my brain is too much for my brain to handle, because I know it's too much for my brain to handle right now as well. These guys are definitely making some big brain calculations out here. But, I mean, 31 seconds is the amount of time right now that DJ Honeycutt has to get up to Ricky Hudgens. And lap time-wise, they're about 2/10 off. So they're continually dropping speed and dropping time, as it looks like Ronald Holmes, I do believe, is going to go a lap down here. So that is going to put Austin McGill and Ronald Holmes both a lap down. They're going to be fighting probably for that lucky dog position. But I think Austin McGill has it right now. So if we do see maybe a caution, that would give Austin McGill the lucky dog. Now, I think a caution really would throw a wrench in all this fuel saving plans. Because if a caution were to come out, these guys would pit, and then they would have to pit one more time to make it to the end of this race. Of course, the fuel window seems to be 30 laps. I mean, you can see the lap times we're seeing from the leader, though. The fastest laps he's hitting right now. I mean, he's hitting his fastest laps of the race, 51.273. That is incredibly quick, especially compared to the leader of the second pack. I mean, he's about a half a second faster right now, so continually putting on time. Definitely curious to see how this all plays out. I think eventually, I mean, usually at Talladega, cautions are bound to happen at some point. Just because, I mean, we saw, even with all these guys trying to save gas and things like that in the second pack, they still were getting very rambunctious. They still got to, you know, because one thing about Talladega is such a huge thing is communication. And these guys have a disadvantage when it comes to communication, especially if you're on a separate team, like Lazy Lizard, Lone Star, at the top. They all cannot communicate with each other over the race comps. They do not have radio. They have radio muted here in the Global Racing Truck Series, so where you cannot talk to one another. And that is really makes it incredibly difficult. Now, the specific teams, such as Five Aces, they can talk because they are in Discord together. But it's hard to have communication between the different teams. So that's why I think that we could have the probability of seeing a caution, especially in the second pack. Because DJ Honeycutt and you know, let's say DJ Honeycutt, Michael Lester, they cannot talk to each other. Bobby Mantle and Michael Lester, they're not talking to each other because they are on separate teams. So that makes, when it comes to communicating, especially when these guys are going to get ready to go down pit road, they cannot talk to each other and give each other a heads up, saying, hey, I'm coming to pit road. So that can cause some sort of situation that might lead to a big crash. I mean, we got, you know, almost 20 trucks that are lined up right here in this second pack. 15 trucks, I should say, that if something goes wrong towards the front of that second pack, all of those guys are probably going to be in it. It's going to be like dominoes knocking them down. And if that happens, this front three here, or front four, I should say, are going to be in very good position considering they'll be able to survive it. And they also have 33 seconds. Now, I do believe we're going to go ahead and go side by side, play some attention to our sponsors right before I know we're getting ready to have our second batch of green flag pit stops. So we figured we'd give some station identification before we get there. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy. but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Grid Vision's coverage of the Global Racing Truck Series here at Talladega. My name is Brian Britt. Of course, if you're just joining us, we're about 60 laps in to this 100-lap race here. And what a race it has been thus far. It has definitely been a race, I'd say, of question marks, I'd say. Really the big thing. David Holsey, Steve Gerber, Ricky Hudgens right now, top three positions. They are over 42 seconds up on the second grouping, which is DJ Honeycutt. Now, the whole point of this is, if you're just joining us, is DJ Honeycutt and everybody behind him are trying to save enough gas to cut out one of their pit stops. And I got to be completely honest, even if they are successful in this thing, it will not make a difference just because of the simple fact that David Holsey, Steve Gerber, Ricky Hudgens are 42, almost 43 seconds ahead of these guys. David Holsey might end up catching the rear of the second pack here very soon, actually. I know on some straightaways where actually they can see, I'd say, the back end of that snake, if you will. I mean, lap time-wise, Holsey 51.9 versus DJ Honeycutt 33.333. As we look through the cockpit camera, I think he could just, well, it's kind of hard to see from my point of view, but I'm sure he could see just a hair, when they're entering the straightaway, essentially, they are exiting the straightaway. We are closing in on fuel stops for Holsey, Steve Gerber, and Hudgens. They will be coming down, I do believe, possibly even this time, considering last time they made it to about lap 31. I think they're going to go one more time here, so I think 62 will probably be the lap that they hit on. Now, of course, Honeycutt and everybody else, they're going to be coming down a couple laps, I do believe, later, maybe even a couple, maybe 4 laps, I think they might be able to make it, because they were able to stretch it 2 extra laps, so that should make it to where they can stretch another 4. And from what our producer, of course, has the calculator out, he says that if they were going to try to take a pit stop out, they would be coming down on lap 60, probably 6 or 67, that second pack. And here comes, just as predicted, David Holsey, Steve Gerber, and Ricky Hudgens. They are now coming to pit road. And this is going to, of course, complete their second pit stop of the day. They still have to make one more in order to make it to the end of this race, though, considering they have to make it 31 laps on a tank of gas. So that means they will have to pit one more time. And one thing about it is what these guys as well could, you see them, they are taking tires, could even possibly in that little stop and go that they're going to have to do, not take tires at all, just pop down, put a little gas in it, and get right back out. So that could even save them even more time on pit road. This is going to be very close. And what if we have a caution that comes out here and just changes absolutely everything? Because, I mean, we're seeing this strategy unfold before us. So far, we have been 100% green, 63 laps, and no cautions have come out. And let's see, we see Steve Gerber was able to beat DJ Honeycutt or David Holsey off of pit road, and you see that they come out right in the pack, essentially. They're going to come out right in the pack. That is not good, I'd say, for the second pack, because that just shows, that really, I think, highlights that this strategy that the second pack is trying to play is not working at all. Because if this was working, they would not come out right there with them. This is not good in the slightest for the second pack. I think that the alarm bells should be ringing that, hey, we lost way too much time saving gas to even make it worthwhile to take out one of the stops. And you can see that, I mean, David Holsey and Gerber are not saving. And they, of course, have linked back up with Ricky Hudgens and Austin McGill. I think McGill should be able to still be able to draft up. And you can see that because they're not saving, they should be able to drive right to the front. So this is very curious. But, of course, this is when a probability for a caution could be high, considering we got 15 trucks that are going to be trying to come to pit road all at one time. And you also have 3 or 4 trucks that have just pitted. And you can just see the speed difference from that 8 truck of Steve Gerber compared to the rest of these drivers. He's already pretty much taking the lead. And I do believe if this second pack pits here and takes tires, they probably will end up going a lap down, possibly. And that's just, I think that's just a very telling thing there, to see that the second pack getting passed by those guys that just came off of pit road. I mean, you would think at other tracks, tires could maybe explain that, but tires don't matter at Daytona. These guys are just on a different strategy. They decided, hey, let's just run it. Let's run it as fast as we can. And here we go. The second pack's coming to pit road. Now, a lot of these guys are not going to make it. Because, I mean, if we were talking about that splitting it into thirds, 65 is not the number. So that is not the number. They're going to have to stretch it just a little bit too far. And, of course, that is, I do believe, DJ Honeycutt and Michael Hayes there. Now, the rest of the second pack, though, are still out here running. You see Justin LeBlanc. They're going to make it one extra lap. Now, this is a little bit better. They could maybe possibly do this, but it's not going to matter, to be completely honest. I just do not think it's going to really matter. I think that running it as fast as you can really has been the play of the race. Here comes the rest of the guys. Here comes Justin LeBlanc to pit road. And these guys are probably on fumes at the moment. And for the most part, everybody able to get slowed down, safely enter pit road. And all the while Steve Gerber is hitting some of his fastest laps, David Holsey hitting some of his fastest laps, Ricky Hudgens hitting some of his fastest laps. And I think we almost had someone miss their box. Luckily, I think they got in there safely, as they have made it to that 2/3 marker. So I think the second pack will be able to make it on fuel. But let's see how much, look at how much time they have lost. They are now about 40, and they haven't even gotten, problems. There, the yellow flag is out. This is going to change everything as they're wrecking coming off of pit road. That was EJ Luna and Bobby Mantle. Now, this just wiped the slate clean. We were wondering about that second pack, that whole deal. This just changed everything. This is going to make it to where I think everybody is going to make it here on fuel if everybody comes down to top off. As we're going to take a look at this accident. And you can see, I think it actually involved, I think that was Slater. I'm sorry, I think that was Slade, Joshua Slade. I think he got into Bobby Mantle there and sent him up into Luna. So we're going to take another look at this. You see that Slade, we're taking a look at it in slow-mo. Right there, Slade almost gets into the back of EJ Luna's, checks up, and then turns Bobby Mantle. Mantle, in turn, comes up and turns EJ Luna. So Slade completely at fault with this situation here. Just being too aggressive coming off of pit road. I guess those guys were not going fast enough for him. And that is unfortunate for Bobby Mantle and Slade and EJ Luna. Fortunately, though, that should not cause a lot of damage. I don't believe the contacts were really, really fast. Now, one good thing, though, is Austin McGill, I do believe, is going to receive his lap back because he, of course, at the time of the caution, he was the lucky dog. And it looks like the rest of the fellows going to be coming down pit road to get a little bit of a splash of gas just to make sure that they're good to the end. Now, this is still going to be really close on gas. Of course, fuel window is about 31 laps. So these, they're going to be under caution, so they're going to be able to save a little bit of fuel while they're pacing. So I think that everybody should be able to make it. And just look at how much longer it took the rest of the field to get up into the pit lane. I mean, it just shows you the gap that Steve Gerber and David Holsey and Ricky Hutchins had on the rest of the field. They were 40 seconds up on the rest of the pack, and we're able to just come down pit road like it was nothing here. That caution has definitely changed the entire outcome of the race. Our producer just mentioned it, and I wholeheartedly agree that this is going to change things. And I think that the saving that we had seen earlier in this race is no longer going to be the case. I think this is when the intensity is going to rise, and we're going to see some just crazy, crazy racing. We were talking about the 3-wide action and 4-wide action we have seen in the next gens. I think we're getting ready to see some of that in the trucks, because these trucks, even though so far in this race we've seen them these guys have been kind of cautious, and it doesn't seem like they're willing to take many risks. I think we're getting ready to see a lot of risky behavior here at Talladega. These trucks are capable of that 3-wide, 4-wide action that the next gens have been putting on this week. They are very much capable, especially, when we're going to see some bump draft, and we're going to probably see some blocks. We might even see some even faster laps here from these drivers. I think we're getting ready to turn some of the fastest laps probably of the race. As, of course, Steve Gerber with the lead here. Pace car lights should be going out very, very soon. Of course, Austin McGill has already gotten the wave around. EJ Luna as well has gotten his lap back. He was not able to pit because of that, I do believe, though, as well as Kenny Heath. I think that puts everybody but Ronald Holmes on the lead lap. So Ronald Holmes is one lap down. He's going to be hoping to get a caution to get that lap back. Of course, taking a little bit of trip in a time machine. We saw him actually hit the inside wall during his first pit stop, and I think he has been pretty much recovering from that all race long. But 70 laps into the show right now. We got 30 to go next time by. And the pace car lights are out. We're getting ready to get this thing underway, as we have seen our first caution. We've seen 67 laps green, and now we have had our first caution We had a fuel strategy that was going to be, I think, very, very curious to see how that all played out. But the one thing about racing is as soon as you think you know how things are going to finish, iRacing changes it completely up on you, or racing itself. That's NASCAR. I mean, it's not just iRacing. You can never predict. That's why, when you make plans in iRacing, a lot of times iRacing just laughs at you. So, well, we'll see how this plays out. Of course, I think we're going to see all the rest of the trucks that were in that second pack were very much slow. I don't think they're going to be slow anymore. I think this is going to be when they're going to hit the gas, and they're going to be going just as fast as Steve Gerber and David Holsey and Ricky Hudgens were. As here we are in the middle of 3 and 4. Pace cars getting prepared to take that left turn down pit road. And what a race we're seeing thus far. Of course, our usual co-commentator here on Grid Vision on Sunday afternoons is Austin Edstrom. He is actually at the real world Talladega here today, probably living it up. I hope he's having a good time and being safe. But there goes the pace car. It's going to be taking that left turn. The long trip to pit road here, and the long trip on the front stretch. Of course, quite a bit of distance to the Geico restart zone from the entrance to pit road. But here we go. Green flag back out in the air. Gerber goes early and allows his Five Aces teammate to get kind of in tow. And they're going to see if they can't possibly break the draft. I don't think they're going to be able to, as you see Ricky Hudgens working now with Stephen Hayes. Hudgens has been working with the Five Aces guy essentially the entire race. Will he remain loyal to that little bit of a partnership that he's formed? Everybody, for the most part, in a single file line. Will it stay that way? Like I said before, I think the intensity is getting ready to rise. Cautions always usually breed cautions. Kind of starting to see a little bit of a pull away here. See the top 8 have essentially pulled away from the rest of the field, and we could even possibly see them lose the draft. Justin LeBlanc kind of falling back a little bit here, along with Mark Royce, Ron Harrington. Of course, Michael Lester, a known good plate racer. He's up here in the top 10, though, top 8. Looks like Justin LeBlanc just barely keeping the draft right now. One thing about these trucks, it's very easy to catch back up. Luckily, we'll see. You have to see, though, just considering. I mean, the next gen, though, if you get about a half a second back in the next gen, you could very easily lose the draft. In this truck, you can get about a second or so back and still be able to draft back up. You can see that happening pretty much with Justin LeBlanc. He is moving his way back towards the pack here, as well as Mark Royce. I think he's okay. He's got a train of cars behind him. But Steve Gerber at the front of this thing. Him and David Holsey matching lap times, hitting their fastest laps of the race. 51.184 last time by, and that was the fastest, I do believe, out of the field, except for Daniel Ott. Ott actually hit a 51.171. As well as we see some battling, I think, starting to happen a little bit further back. 3 wide, actually, in the second grouping. Right around where Michael Hayes, DJ Honeycutt, and Daniel Ott, they were 3 wide for a moment. Now they're double file. Starting to race kind of hard back here. This is kind of interesting to see. Now, this is a bad thing for this group. They really need to get back in line to be able to draft back up to the main grouping. Because if they race each other too hard, that's one thing you see at tracks like this. If they start to side draft each other and start to really dump air on each other, they're going to slow each other down. We'll have to see if that is going to be the case. Looking at lap times right now, they're still turning some good ones. So I don't think it's hurting them too terribly bad. But if they start to go 3 wide, it could very easily slow them down. Take a look at the top 10. Steve Gerber out front. David Holsey's in second place right now. Third place, Ricky Hudgens. Stephen Hayes is in fourth. Chad McGinley, first time I've seen him in the top 5. Sixth place, Michael Lester. 7th place, Joshua Slade. He's back up in the top 10 and trying to do some work. 8th place, Stephen Knight. 9th, Justin LeBlanc. And, of course, 10th, Mark Royce, who we see right in front of this grouping of race cars. As we're now coming to 25 laps to go. And we are seeing some of the fastest laps of the race being turned back here in this second grouping. That is Daniel Odd, who hit a 50.963, fastest lap of the race thus far. Yeah, man, I do believe Tyler Honeycutt, the only drivers, and DJ Honeycutt, the only drivers to really hit sub 51-second laps right now. And because of this, they have caught back up to the group. Oh, problems. We got some action on the track. Ron Harrington getting turned into the grass. Him and Michael Hayes taking a little bit of a trip. You see Ron Harrington going through the grass right now. We're going to have to see if we can get a replay of what just happened here between the 66 and the 1. It all happened just so suddenly. As we take a look back, we're watching the 66 and the 1 of Michael Hayes. You see Michael Hayes up on the top. I think he might have just got ejected. And down into Ron Harrington. Harrington really... nothing he could do. He was just kind of minding his own business on the bottom line, and Michael Hayes just got ejected. And I'd be curious to know who was behind Michael, who that did this ejecting. Michael Hayes was turning some of the fastest laps we had seen thus far. And it looks like that was actually the 2 of Tyler Honeycutt that I think ejected Michael Hayes. And unfortunately, Ron Harrington going for a ride. He is now 20 seconds off of the pack, unfortunately. Michael Hayes is well off the pack. That is a good point our producer is making about black flags. Could that have possibly paid some black flags out to these drivers? A lot of times when you come down pit road that fast, you get unsafe pit entries, you get speeding penalties, and those can be costly. I would very much probably suspect that we're going to see Ron Harrington and Michael Hayes probably have to, serve some sort of penalty for that. But of course, Steve Gerber still out front with David Holsey in tow. And the pack is, for the most part, single file out. I'm sure Kenny Heath, Austin McGill, Ron Harrington all hoping for some sort of caution to come out to get them back in this race. As we come up closer and closer to lap 22. We got a problem. I think someone's spinning. That is Ronald Holmes. Holmes with some issues. He spins out down onto the apron. No caution flag. We're going to see if we can't find exactly what just happened here to the Patriots machine to Ron Harrington as he comes back onto the track. Hopefully he's able to get back going and doesn't bring a caution. Looks like he possibly just got loose. And keep in mind, he had hit the wall on pit road earlier in the race. Could the damage possibly to his suspension maybe affected that race car and caused him to get loose? Of course, he hit the wall again right there, so bad situation gone worse for Ronald Holmes, and he is getting ready to actually go a second lap down as well as the pack is catching up. I think Ronald Holmes probably not sure exactly where he should go to get out of the way here. He's staying so far right now on the bottom of the track. And I love this camera looking off the back end of this race car. We're going to see that pack grow bigger and bigger and quicker as Ronald Holmes gets caught by this steaming locomotive. And just look at how there goes Holmes. He's going to come to pit road, locks up the tires, and he's going to make it to pit road. Steve Gerber, though, out front. That, of course, 5 Aces Team Watson Racing Setups machine. Right now, we got the top 15 all separated by about 2 seconds at the moment from start to finish. So they're all, pretty much anybody in the top 15, I think right now still is a contender to possibly win this race. And I am checking the race control logs, and I do believe those guys that had those issues wrecking onto pit road did have their black flags cleared. From what I am seeing on the logs, that did happen. The race control did clear the black flags, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, they were going down there to essentially avoid a crash. That's kind of the similar, I do believe, rules in actual NASCAR, that whenever you're going down there to avoid a crash, no penalty is needed. Of course, Steve Gerber out front right now, coming now 20 laps to go. Fuel should not be a concern, but a lot of these guys are acting a lot calmer than I thought they should. I mean, I would expect that a lot of guys starting to make moves here, but it looks like for the most part, everybody kind of being patient. They know that even though it's only 20 to go, that's still a long time, still a long way to the end. That easily, you don't want to have wrecked your race car by making some bonsai crazy moves with 20 to go. You want to wait until probably 5 to go, or maybe even just out of turn number 4. A lot of the biggest moves at Talladega are made out of turn number 4. As we're now coming up to 18 to go next time by. I think now's the time. We'll take one more brief side-by-side. We'll come back with the conclusion of the race here at Talladega on Global Racing Truck Series on Grid Vision.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
We are back on Group Vision here. Of course, concluding the Talladega race here on the Global Race, or in the Global Racing Truck Series. Of course, we're deep into the playoffs, and Steve Gerber out front. While we were under commercial, me and my producer were kind of talking about whether Steve Gerber is going to have enough gas to make it to the end. Of course, he has been leading quite a few of these last 29 laps. So David Holsey, a little bit of a technical issue there. Hopefully he doesn't have that continue to plague him there. But we're seeing a little bit of a two-car breakaway. But, of course, Steve Gerber has been in the clean air, and a lot of times at tracks like this, most of the time, that is conducive to less fuel economy. Now, of course, the lap times in this top grouping, of course, of 15, we got 15 cars that are pretty much in this lead pack. They're all kind of hitting 52-second laps again, 52.7s right now. So slower laps, I think, in order to possibly to save gas, as we are continuing to see a blinking issue there from David Holsey. He has not been solid, I do believe, the last couple laps. So that is kind of a scary situation as well. Could we see something go wrong? We know that lately, he is, I think, blinking inside of the truck. This has got to probably be terrifying the drivers that are in the behind David Holsey, because, I mean, all it takes is one little bad moment there. Of course, iRacing, essentially, when you're having connection issues, essentially has to guess where you are on the racetrack. And a lot of times those calculations, those guesses are not right. And sometimes that ends up with a circumstance that we like to call net code. And when you're having connection issues, I think that's when it's at its worst. So hopefully David Holsey gets that all cleared up, because I know for a fact that Steve Gerber does not want to see this win and get it taken away from him just because of some connection issues. And I'm sure everybody else behind him is probably nervous, but also possibly licking their chops as well. Licking their lips, salivating a little bit, because that could be an extra position as we come, I do believe, to 11 or 12 laps to go, coming up to 11 next time by. And David Holsey continuing to blink. I guarantee you that Steve Gerber has got to be just terrified right now, because all he could probably see in his rearview mirror is a car that is flashing. I mean, it's already hard enough to see David Holsey's race car anyway. It's camouflaged. But now his car is blinking as well. So that camouflage is starting to work. I kid. But that is a serious thing. And one thing about it is David Holsey is always having issues like this. We've seen this in seasons past, to where Holsey has always had some sort of bad luck befall him. Whether that being caught up in a wreck or blinking out, a throughput error, something like that always seems to happen to David Holsey. And I just hope it doesn't happen here tonight. I mean, or today. He's shown so much pace. Both of these 5 Aces crew, I mean, they have absolutely dominated the race. They also are possibly coming up on some lap traffic. Here comes a big move. You see Stephen Knight, still blinking there from Holsey. Also, Ricky Hudgens jumps up almost 3 wide. That's not Stephen Knight. I mistakenly said Stephen Knight. That's actually Bobby Mantle with Chad McGinley. They're, of course, teammates. So the racing is starting to heat up as guys are starting to really formulate and execute their moves. Steve Gerber, though, still the leader. Now 10 laps to go. As we see 3 wide, Mark Royce making a move to the top with Daniel Ott's help. Him and Ott have worked together pretty much all race long. But here comes Mantle. They're moving closer and closer down to the bottom. You can see side draft starting to become a big factor here. Can they do something against the 5 Aces crew? They have been dominating this race. But it looks like, I think, the at the top guys have pretty much been biding their time. And it looks like Bobby Mantle almost clear to the bottom, but not able to get clear in the corner. And this is what Talladega is supposed to look like right here, ladies and gentlemen. 3 wide, 2 wide, double file racing. Just without blinking race cars. That would be the best thing. as they continue to be 3 wide. You see Mark Roy still trying to make that tippity top third lane work. Just not. I don't think they have the numbers to really make it happen. But Mantle is definitely making the middle line very much work. Can they get clear to the bottom? Of course, I think the blinking is hurting Steve Gerber. He's losing pace, I would assume, as a result of this blinking. Because, I mean, of course, him not being there and then suddenly being there, I think is providing less bump draft or less push to the back end of the 8 machine. That is just an unfortunate time just to have this blinking issue just start to strike towards the end of this race. I mean, a 100-lap race, and the majority of it, the 57, has been solid and strong, and now he's having issues. As you see, the top line is really ganged up against the bottom, and somehow the bottom is still competitive, even though there's more drivers on the top. They also are coming up on that lap traffic, that of course being Kenny Heath, Ron Harrington, Michael Hayes, and Austin McGill. I hate to say it, but I feel like if Gerber had somebody else behind him that wasn't blinking, we would see something different here. But unfortunately, I guess beggars can't be choosers. You can see almost Ricky Hudgens almost pushing the pusher here to try to get this bottom line going. And it looks like it's working. Come now, 7 laps to go. Side by side for the lead. Steve Gerber has led a lot of laps here tonight. Can he lead the one that counts the most? Oh! David Holsey gets ejected and almost, I think he hit the wall just a hair, as we're seeing a lot of movement. 3 wide, guys on the apron. I think we could possibly see a caution here. You see Stephen Knight comes back onto the track. We're 4 wide, no caution. Somehow, no caution came out. That was crazy. We saw a lot of drama, and I think that those guys I think that had that issue still probably are in the draft. I think they're still going to be able to move forward. One thing that is coming, though, is the lap cars that this pack is coming up on. I don't think we saw any damage there. I think I see a little bit possibly on the right rear, but not a lot at all. I see a little bit of the spoiler might be bent, but I think he is okay. Steve Gerber makes a move to the high side to jump up in front of Mantle. Looks like Ricky Hudgens sticks with the 8 machine. Very close racing. Of course, Ricky Hudgens and Steve Gerber have a long history of being friends. So will they, of course, stay loyal to one another here, as pretty much they have an at-the-top crew working against them. As well as you got Lazy Lizard working together there, Tyler Honeycutt and, of course, Michael Lester. I'm sure Michael Lester's got to be extremely excited to be back in the sim rig. I know I think his computer was messed up for a number of weeks. Hasn't been able to race. Has definitely probably missed it. And he's back in it, and he's left in the top 10 right now. Steve Gerber, though, still in control. 3 wide as Mark Royce is definitely making that top line work now with the aid of David Holsey. Holsey has got him a fast truck if he's able to stay solid. That's the big deal. So could we see a 3x3 finish here as we are staying 3 wide for, man, this is some exciting racing out here on the racetrack. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of weaving back and forth in this pack, and guys are having, looks like Ricky Hudgens having a little bit of a trouble staying on the bottom. A lot of guys moving all around. The turbulent air is causing these trucks to not be as stable as they were when they were just in a single file line. And it looks like David Holsey is going to possibly push Mark Royce to the lead. Does Royce stick with Holsey? Here comes Steve Gerber. He edges out front with the aid of Ricky Hudgens. 3x3. See Ricky Hudgens almost, oh! There goes DJ Honeycutt. He is ejected, now down pit road. Definitely going to get caught for speeding for that. I do believe he was turned going down pit road as we are now 3 laps to go, coming to the 2 to go sign. Steve Gerber has led the majority of the laps here tonight. Will he lead the last one? We're getting ready to find out as we are still 3 wide. At any time, something could go wrong. We haven't seen the big one yet here today, but it could very well happen here in the next few moments. And if it does happen, with them guys being 3 wide, it is going to be a big one. It's all going to be about who survives. As we now come to 2 laps to go, Ricky Hudgens comes up and almost tags Tyler Honeycutt. They are getting insanely close to one another. 4 wide now as Joshua Slade makes it 4 wide. They are packed in there like sardines. All it takes is one false move, ladies and gentlemen. We will see a wreck. And I think it could happen at any moment. Do we take the white, or do we see a green-white checker? And now they're 3 by 3. Joshua Slade, I think, has elected to get out of the 4 wide condition as we get ready to exit turn number 4 onto the front stretch. And I think we might possibly do it. Are we going to take the white flag? Who is going to win this race? And here we go. Barney the flag man is waving that white flag, and the white flag is out. Next flag is going to end it. 3 by 3, 3 wide for the lead. Who is going to win this race? It is still unknown. Do we wreck going across the start-finish line? We very much could. Oh, and there goes Steve Gerber getting turned. Mark Royce turned on the backstretch. Big wreck on the backstretch. And everybody is involved in this crash. And I do believe Ricky Hudgens escapes the melee and will exit turn number 4. And he will win here in Global Racing Truck Series competition. They have been so cautious all race long. No one had really made any huge mistakes. But the big one happens on the last lap in the middle of the backstretch. And Ricky Hudgens weaves it all and survives to take home the checkered flag. What an awesome performance there from Hudgens. Hudgens ran in the top 3 all race long. He picked the right people to push, and it worked out for him. Let's take a look back at that crash on the backstretch. I mean, that was quite the spectacle. Looking back at it, you can just see Steve Gerber, I think, came up a little bit. And unfortunately, just everybody. I mean, look at this just massive pileup. No one really escaped this except for Ricky Hudgens and Joshua Slade. As we take another look, I think we still went a couple seconds too far. But we see, of course, when we came into the replay here, Mark Royce was already pretty much backwards. And look at this save. Look at this miss there for Ricky Hudgens. I mean, he dodged calamity. He almost got in that himself. I mean, that is what won him that race. That was the winning moment right there. And Ricky Hudgens goes to victory lane because of that awesome dodge, as he's out here going to be doing some celebrating. What a race for Ricky Hudgens. Of course, this is going to be very good for him, his playoff hopes. And of course, that's going to bring us to the conclusion of our Martin Sports winning moment. Martin Sports, of course, a family-owned apparel company in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They've been open for a decade and have proved to be the best provider of custom apparel for everyone. Whether you need apparel for your local sports team, business, special event, maybe you got a family reunion, they can definitely take care of it. They have some of the best quality shirts and clothing that'll last 1,000 washes, essentially. Not only that, but Martin Sports is a major brand in sim racing apparel as well. They can actually make you custom jerseys for your team. You can also even get sim racing gloves, which are fantastic. I have a set myself. They're very breathable. But if you want to maybe get into contact with them or see what they can do for you, definitely visit martinsports906.com today to get started. With that, we'll take a look at our final results here, top to bottom. Of course, that'll feature Ricky Hudgens at the top of the board, getting a win by just having the awesome ability to pretty much avoid a wreck. Second place, Joshua Slade, able to avoid it as well. Third place, Justin LeBlanc. Fourth place, Michael Lester. Good job to him. I bet he's glad to be back and glad to get a top five. Bobby Mantle, fifth place. Tyler Honeycutt in sixth. EJ Luna, seventh. Mark Royce in eighth. Daniel Ott, ninth. DJ Honeycutt in 10th. Unfortunate for Steve Gerber, was leading there on the last lap, got caught up in an accident, finished 11th. Stephen Knight in 12th. Stephen Hayes in 13th. So that is, wow, Steve, and Steve, 11th, 12th, and 13th. 14th, David Halsey. 15th, Chad McGinley. 16th, Michael Hayes. 17th, Ron Harrington. 18th, Kenny Heath. 19th, Austin McGill. And rounding out our 20-car field, I do believe is Ronald Holmes. With that, we'll take one last step away. We'll be right back with our post-race show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, here we are at our post-race show here on Grid Vision. Of course, we saw a thrilling conclusion here to the race here at Talladega Superspeedway. And I mean, man, this is definitely an exciting one for sure. As we see Ricky Hudgens still out there turning some victory laps, definitely celebrating. We're going to go ahead and talk to our third place finisher, though, Justin LeBlanc. Justin, we got you up here in the booth, man. I mean, wow, what a thrilling conclusion to the race. I mean, it seemed like you just barely were able to get third place, just considering, I mean, that wreck on the backstretch. Wow. I mean, I bet that was quite an intense thing to see from your point of view.
It was pretty intense last lap. We were trying to make a run, a slow and start guys, but we were not going anywhere, and I was just stuck out back. So as soon as I saw a little bit of smoke, I just really slowed it down.
Well, it definitely seemed to pay off for sure. I mean, trying to miss that accident seemed to be definitely the way to go for sure. You kind of did I'd say you gritted up pretty good. I mean, third place you started, you finished in third, so it kind of worked out really well for you. Very good points today. We haven't really. I'd say you've been somewhat struggling here as of late. What does the finish like this do to kind of turn around your season?
Yeah, it definitely helps out. We were trying to build a strategy there the whole race, us Lone Star boys, but didn't didn't quite make it. But all in all, yeah, I've been having a hard time this year. I don't know what, but this is hopefully a turnaround for me.
Yeah, we definitely hope that's the case for sure, Justin. And we saw that strategy. Speaking about that strategy, I'm curious, like what the thought process was, though. I mean, because I know you guys were trying to, cut out one fuel stop, right? And it just seemed like though you guys were losing so much time that wouldn't have worked. That even if you had cut the fuel stop out, you lost. Y'all were 40, almost 50 seconds back from the guys that weren't really on that strategy. So did it seem like it was going to work, or were y'all's calculations a little off?
No, the first stint we kind of got stuck in a smaller pack that lost the draft, I guess. So it really put us back, and then basically we were gonna stick with our strategy as best we could. We knew we lost a lot of time hoping for a yellow flag at the end there.
Well, you definitely got that yellow flag, and it kind of brought everybody kind of back onto the same strategy and kind of wiped the slate clean. So, and it allowed you to get that third place finish. Definitely a great job to be able to kind of miss that accident. And it looks like, from what I'm looking at the results here, you were even close to possibly getting second from Slade there at the end. But how are you feeling about next week? I think we're going to Charlotte. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to the Charlotte Roval.
Yeah, it should be a good weekend. I like road courses, so hopefully we can put on a good show there, all the boys.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to it, that's for sure. Of course, it's going to be a difficult, a lot of times we don't see Global Racing go kind of do the left and the right turns, but we'll definitely be curious to see how that all plays out. Justin, who can we shout out after your third place finish?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Lone Star, everybody at Lone Star. We were trying to do something at the end, but we really got screwed. I was just the lucky one at the end, but you guys at the booth for broadcasting every week, and the rest of the guys at Global that makes it every weekend put on this show. It was fun.
Definitely was fun to watch. Well, thanks for your time, Justin. We'll see you later.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, that was Justin LeBlanc. Definitely a fantastic performance there from him, finishing third place, starting third and finishing third, so definitely not a bad day at all. Of course, Joshua Slade definitely had a really good truck. Definitely very good setup underneath the hood there today. I mean, it seemed like, you were pushing a lot of guys to the front early in the race, but then that kind of odd strategy kind of showed up. Josh, I mean, and also you missed the accident and finished second. I mean, man, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, 100%. It was a lot. It was a lot to go on in the beginning of the race. I tried to be aggressive and see how my setup kind of fared up against the rest of the guys on the field. But then it came down to pretty much gas, just saving your gas, honestly. So that's why there was a big holdup there, and then that kind of all got thrown away when I got into Luna, or avoided Luna and got into Bobby there and brought out that caution. And then I was just able to avoid that last caution, luckily, because it all pretty much stayed on the bottom. I got some damage from it, but I was able to hold up on LeBlanc for that P2 spot.
Yeah, that was definitely a close race. I know it was just 100th, I do believe, that you guys kind of finished from each other, so that could have easily turned out the other way, where you could have finished third and he in second, but still you're able to hold on to that second place position. And then, yeah, that's actually, you reminded me about that accident that kind of initially brought the caution out when you were coming off of pit road. And, you were trying to avoid EJ and kind of came down into Bobby, and Bobby went up and hit EJ. So it's like trying to avoid EJ seemed like it made the situation worse.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look back at it, it looks like it's still my fault. Looks like Luna missed a shift, and when I was going to avoid that, I didn't know that Manta was on the left side of my truck, and then got into them. Luckily, it didn't affect their race, but still, gotta do better on my part.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like it affected him too much. I mean, because EJ still finished in seventh. Of course, Bobby was in contention to win even there at the end for sure. Now, going back to the fuel strategy, you guys, everybody that was in that second pack, that was like 15 trucks that had elected to kind of slow down and take it a little easier to kind of save gas. It was, in theory, a good idea, but I was kind of crunching the numbers during the broadcast. Even if you guys had took out a pit stop, I don't think it would have worked. I feel like the guys that, even if they had to stop an extra time, would have still been able to be in front of you guys, considering you guys are about 40 plus seconds you know, kind of y'all had lost over the kind of the full race, 40 plus seconds. Did y'all account for that, or what was the thought process?
So yeah, I figured we'd be able to, as long as we made it. We tried to make it to lap 66 on that second pit stop run. We were able to make it there. We figured that those guys in that first pack were gonna come down and have to pit again. And so as long as we didn't get lapped, or as long as we can run it all the way through on that last pit stop, then we'd be good, and those guys would have to come in again. But unfortunately, that wasn't the way the race turned out, and we didn't get to find out. But we figured that we were gonna, because usually it takes like a minute. Like it takes a minute to actually for a whole lap to go around. Probably like a minute and like 40 seconds or a minute and 30 seconds. So we were gonna be in good standings as long as we didn't pit again after that.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand exactly the thought process there for sure. But I think what kind of undid that whole strategy was like the fact that David Holsey and the Five Aces guy, along with Ricky Hudgens, went down pit road and took a stop and came out, and they were right there with you. And I think that made it to where it seemed like maybe y'all's strategy wouldn't actually work out. On paper, of course, it seemed like it would have. But I mean, either way, we didn't get to see how it was going to unfold. I was definitely excited to see how that would have possibly unfolded, Josh, but unfortunately we kind of got robbed of that. But we did get at least a concession to get to see a crazy accident at the end. How are you feeling about the Roval next week?
I love the Roval. The Roval's always fun. It's just we have to put in a lot of time, and it's gonna be a very skilled driver track. So hopefully we'll see all these guys in the league, if how they are on the road course. You always know Austin McGill is phenomenal. So is Stephen Hayes at road. So just trying to compete with those guys, and hopefully I can score another interview with you at the end of the race.
Well, I mean, you've been doing that a lot, so I definitely suspect you probably will. I mean, every week you've been coming in here with some fast race cars and definitely some great performances. Josh, who can we give a shout out to before we let you get to it?
Yeah, just give a shout out to all Lazy Lizards. I wasn't able to have my drivers in here this week, but shout out to my new drivers who will be debuting next week. So shout out to them. Shout out to you guys in the booth. I want to shout out DJ Honeycutt, because I got into him going off turn 4, and unfortunately he had to go through the pits. But I apologize for that. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the league. And great race, good turnout, and so we have better races to come.
Yes, sir. Well, definitely thanks for your time, and thanks for making it interesting. We see that race car, that green race car, has definitely been making some big moves, John. So we definitely see that. We see you, but you have a great day and the rest of your day.
I hope y'all like that 4 wide, by the way. I definitely tried to take
Oh, yeah, we saw it. We definitely did. I was like, 4 wide, what is he doing? Thanks, Josh.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all have a nice one.
All right, that was Joshua Slade, driver of the 12 machine. Definitely a great run for him today. I was looking to see him. We had our winner in the waiting room, but unfortunately he seems to have left the waiting room. Not sure exactly what happened. Of course, our race winner, we'd like to talk to him. Unfortunately, it looks like he is not available right now. Not sure exactly what's going on, but hopefully we'll get to maybe chat with him next week, maybe before the race. Hopefully we'll see what kind of happens, but definitely want to give him a huge congratulations for missing that wreck. I mean, that was like one of the biggest weaves I've ever seen. I mean, just to be able to weave, that was like 10 cars all right there, essentially getting ready to wreck each other, and fortunately he was able to miss it all. So definitely awesome to see that for sure, and great job to everybody out here that put on such a tremendous show. Made it definitely a lot easier to call. That's for sure. We definitely enjoyed it, and definitely got to give our condolences to Steve Gerber after leading so much of this race, as well as Bobby Mantle was in contention to possibly win. Mark Royce was as well. I mean, he was making that top line work. Of course, before we get going, let's take a look at the schedule for next week. And of course, that is going to be the conclusion of today's race. We're going to see one later tonight, though, in the RGR Kailu Glass Cup. That is, of course, going to be at Darlington. On Monday, we're going to see Grid Vision Superspeedway action. That, of course, is going to be at Talladega in the trucks, I do believe. Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Champion Power Equipment goes to Bristol. Thursday, of course, SSRL Truck Series is going to be 9 p.m. going to Charlotte. I do believe the Roval as well. And, of course, the Roval is going to be making a bunch of appearances here, I do believe, this coming week. Friday, we're going to see 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. NIS go there. Top split action. Can't wait to see all the road course ringers come out of the woodwork. Of course, on Sunday, we'll have doubleheader at Charlotte. Of course, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Global Racing Truck Series will be at the Roval. And then that night, 9 p.m., I do believe the oval version is going to be making an appearance in the RGR Cup Series. So that kind of a look top to bottom at our Grid Vision weekly schedule. With that, of course, I think that brings us to the conclusion of today's broadcast on the Global Racing Truck Series at Talladega. Of course, we definitely want to congratulate Ricky Hudgens once again for picking up the win. Thanks to everyone that tuned in today. And I also want to thank Zinla Collins for being the best producer ever. I know I was kind of by myself, so I don't really get to thank a co-commentator, but you know what? I'll thank Austin Edstrom either way. I also want to thank everybody else that's involved with Grid Vision that makes all of this happen. My name is Brian Britt, and we'll see you next time.